Say goodbye to your resume. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Gobble gobble, Mr. Nash. It's Thanksgiving week here on the focus group. Thanks for joining us. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash, in our 15th year.
We've decided it was 15.
That's what I've decided.
Yeah.
It is 15. 8 and 3, 8, 3, 5. Yeah, 15.
Yeah, 15.
15th year, and so we didn't just get a microphone. And so we appreciate you joining us. And so this will be, gosh, how many? We've done 15 Thanksgivings.
Thanksgivings, yeah.
And that's something. So be sure to follow along with us at focusgroupradio.com. You'll find our podcast there as well, which is TFG Unbuttoned, which is not 15 years, but it's been around for quite some time as well. And so all our media is housed there, as well as our sponsors, including Deep Discount. It's a great time of year to scan the Deep Discount site and start your holiday shopping and get a jump on it. And there's great deals going on there, as there are all year long, but particularly this time of year. So be sure to check them out. So, Mr. Nash, I was wondering about the sound of a turkey. I was going to open up with gobble gobble.
Yeah, actually, that's pretty close to...
But where did that come from? Is that from the turkey sound? Gobble gobble.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yeah, certainly, yeah.
I wonder who decided that's what it was. Like it wasn't dodle dodle or...
I feel like I should channel Miranda Priestley and say, Tim, please bore someone else with your questions. When Anne Hathaway is like, I need skirts, I need this, I need that. She goes, what kind of skirts? And Miranda goes, please bore someone else. This is what Bob and I do. Bob will say, like, why is the sky blue? Why is this? Why finally? I'm like, please bore someone else with your questions. Someone came up with gobble gobble. Who knows?
Okay, that's that. So are you? So tomorrow is if you're listening or watching us here on Wednesday.
If you're watching, yeah,
is the actual Thanksgiving, and we talked about on our podcast about the non-binary transgender extravaganza. I hope you plan to tune into the
the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Thanksgiving Day Parade, and then you'll have your turkey dinner. I'm heading to Connecticut to see family and friends, of course, and so I'll be up there for a bit. And I like Thanksgiving. It was my dad's favorite holiday because I think you had summed it up as it was. You called it clean.
It's
simple.
Clean. Yeah, it's food and friends and family. Yeah.
Right. No gift giving expectations and all those.
Tipping.
Sort of things.
Yeah, there's none of that. Yeah.
Oh, tipping.
That's Christmas.
Now, do you have to tip again now where you live?
Yes, but since we have a smaller staff in this building, it's been greatly reduced. And Christmas is a very narrow band holiday now when it comes to gifts or tips or things like that.
So you're on the board and your co-op there. So
I'm on the co-op board.
Do you guys send out a recommended tip sheet or something someone doesn't know to say here's
yes and no. So what we do is we send out some of the staff have Venmo or some of the payment apps that they might prefer to get a tip via. We'll send that information out, but we don't. You bring up something funny. I think I've talked about this before. In my old building, when we first moved into our building downtown 20-some years ago, doorman's name is Jarvis. Super cool guy. Love him to death. Still friendly. When I'm down there to see my dentist, I always hang out with him for a while. I pulled him aside one day and I said, what's the average tip? Oh, it's whatever you want. It's whatever you feel like. I'm like, no. Please dispense with that. Must be a number. He eventually gave me a number, which was the number we used for years, and we were considered to be one of the better people in the building.
You didn't increase?
I think after 5 years we did slightly, but honestly, no, I kept it pretty consistent. Because when you hear someone say you can give a gift, you can give us a financial tip, or many people make us cookies and cakes. I'm like,
right, food.
Well, okay, if you're getting cookies and cakes, then you're going to not mind getting $50 or whatever it is, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
We had that going on, and up here it's different. And I did the same thing with our head doorman, who's part-time on the weekdays. I pulled him aside, and I'm like, look, I did this downtown. with your counterpart, who you don't know, but he told me the numbers. Then he quietly said, here's a range you could think about. I was like, okay.
Wow. Well, and I'm sure not everybody partakes.
And no, they don't. And like I do tip our garage staff, even though the garage is not a cheap garage, but they are so wonderful and friendly and great, and they always have the car ready. And one of them, the manager, pulled me aside one day and he said, I just want to thank you for remembering us and taking the time to do that. The guys really appreciate it, and they really like seeing what you guys when you come in and pick up the car. So I think people do notice. I think it does make a difference, right?
Yeah. Or you could be a Jehovah's Witness and be dead set against them. I had a Jehovah's Witness that worked for me, and she didn't want her bonus. She, the Subaru gave out a nice bunch. She didn't want it.
Tim, what was the faith or the denomination of one of your former partners who wrapped up?
Yeah,
Witness. That's it. They wrapped up a thing that you owned already and gave it to you.
Not even a thing. The telephone. Wrapped up the telephone. Merry Christmas.
What did you do when you opened it? Do you remember that at all?
I wish there was a camera on me. I mean, it would have been a reality show. I looked at
your own telephone wrapped up.
This is my phone. But it was all boxed nicely. It was put back in the box. It was wrapped up. Did that with everything around the house. Wrapped up things around the house. And then gave them to me. I said, well, that's really not how Christmas works. So you don't give me my things. Wrap them
back
up.
to you. I remember when you called me and told me that story. I couldn't stop laughing because.
Oh, and Marianne and Steve were relentless because then I made the mistake of telling them, like I told you, and then we went to their house, and then they were bringing things to me they'd open up the counter and pull out like an old like a toaster or a pan and put it in front of me. Merry Christmas.
I can see the two of them doing that. I can see the two of them.
Marianne
going to
still
town.
does it to this day. To this day, she'll get. Oh, thank you, Marianne, for bringing that up.
But and then you sent me last week. You sent me that a clip from the web about the people we used to work for out in Colorado finally closed that the dispensary they had spent gobs of money on. Right? What
oh
a
my
waste.
Gosh, millions, right? Probably
Millions. Yeah.
Well, it said permanently closed, right, on the Google, and I couldn't find anything written about it. I would have thought it would have hit the press, but it did not. But then I did find something else interesting. There was actually a dispensary for the sub-brand that had opened in another part of Colorado, which was vastly different than the luxury Polo boutique. So
Tim and I worked a couple years ago on developing the branding and the content and the story and all this incredible work we did for a Colorado company that was going to be selling cannabis. And it was one of the most, would you say unusual or horrific? Which would it was adjective?
Everything. We could write a book about it. And,
yes.
Or
a musical.
Well, a musical, anything. But it could be a lesson in
how to burn money.
Well, I was trying to think exactly what it would be. I mean, the stories are unbelievable. When I've told some of the stories to people, they just can't believe that it took place. And you and I just know the surface, right? I mean, it probably goes a lot deeper, and you learn new stuff all the time. But yeah, it was one of those things where it would be interesting to ask people in the ad business or marketing and branding businesses, tell me about your craziest client. And this would be them, and we would tell. We'd probably pick 4 or 5 stories of.
We won the business. We were one of multiple agencies they had worked with. We never really bothered to wonder why the previous agencies were not there. We learned later what was going on, but Tim was one of the stars of winning that business because we went out to their facility in Colorado and had a whole day brand seminar. Games they played. They had to, pick names and colors and genders for different brands. Apparently impressed them, and they were apparently also on their best behavior because when we later saw that crowd smoking and drinking, and Tim, you and I walked into it, and we both sat down in the hotel we were staying at, and I'm like, look, we're going to take the business, but I think we both know what we're walking into, and you're like, take it.
No, and it came at a good time for us. And so
yes,
all of that happened, but it was great. And then, and I was able to use some of the stuff I learned. I'd been through so many of these darn branding exercises with Disney and a bunch of other places. and put that together. And
It's
you're right,
fantastic.
they were on their best behavior.
Oh,
And
super best. Yeah.
and you and I really put the spotlight on and did what we do. But then we found out later. You find out all the creaks and aches and
Cockroaches
pains
and the dirt. Yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't know. John and I had handlers. Remember, they had hired handlers for us, which
Yep.
we had no idea that why these people with kerchiefs and cowboy hats and checkered shirts
We're waiting
following
by the
us
door
around.
at midnight. Like,
We're here for you. You should have told us that earlier. I got a bunion on my foot you could rub.
Anyway.
But John and I are sitting, and at one point, John and I are sitting in this lodge, and this Jeep pulls up. It was at 1:32 in the morning with a load of a pickup truck with a load of firewood to keep the fire going, because the fire would run 24/7 in the in their house. So that just gives
Crazy.
you an idea. Yeah,
Crazy money.
to be young with that kind of money. So what caught your eye this week, Mr. Nash?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Well, it's not as Thanksgiving themed as I might have liked, but it's Disney World and Disneyland. And many years ago, Tim and I actually did a Caught Our Eye, or we profiled the fact that Disney actually has cameras everywhere, and they pay attention to what people are doing, especially people that are letting ashes of loved ones spread on. They're careful about that. And if they notice someone spreading ashes in the park, a hazmat team goes out and they put up a curtain and they do this stuff. No one gets in trouble, but they're keeping an eye out for it. This was subtly different. This is the article that I read was about people that do poop, people who are waiting on these long lines for these rides. They actually just pop a squat.
What?
And keep moving on. Tim, I swear to God,
Where did you find this? In the Onion?
CNBC. It sounds too disgusting, too outlandish to be real.
Oh, my
A
God.
Disneyland urban legend of the gross-out variety that people are dropping trou and pooping where they stand while in lines for rides. But unfortunately for the weak stomach, this rumor is absolutely real. Twice in the last month, posters on the Disney World subreddit commented in fury and horror about the cursed things they said they'd seen while waiting in line. I'm in the queue for Rise of the Resistance. This is a Star Wars ride. Someone let their kid take a dump on the floor, and then they just walked on and left it. I knew you'd enjoy this one. That fecal sighting was supported almost in real time by a commenter who said they worked at the attraction, and the guy that worked there said, "For the skeptics, this actually happened. Fun fact, this was one of 3 SHIT-related incidents at Rise of the Resistance today. Less fun fact, I was here for all 3 of them."
Oh, my God.
On another thread, a commenter bemoaned the behavior of park guests at the wildly popular attraction Flight of Passage. "Bodily fluids no longer bother me after working at Disney," they wrote. "Let's just say that the attraction I work at has what the cast ended up dubbing the poop hall, because the amount of times guests have gone in there and pooped. But we even put up a camera and it didn't stop it. Good Lord, the poop hallway." So Disney calls this, they have codes for things, right? So they call this a code H. According to the authors, originally referenced as horse crap. So a code H, when that's issued, that means people in the rides and stuff know that someone did something in the ride, so they have to do it.
My goodness.
It turns out there are restrooms that are available to guests. If you ask an attendant, you can go, but people don't pay attention to that. And there's a pair of individual use restrooms just backstage from the north up unload of one of the rides. It was mainly for cast members, but guests could use it and did use it. A woman who did not know this burst into the control room for the attraction and deposited her gift right there.
Oh, my God.
It must have been challenging for the ride operator to stay at their post in there before it was all cleaned up.
Ew.
So that's
People are pigs.
folks.
People are pigs.
I just can't even fathom that you're waiting in line for a ride, and then you're like, okay, I think I gotta go. I mean, it just doesn't compute to me. But we're not like that, Tim.
Or maybe if you have that issue, wear some Depends on your trip.
People do that in Times Square for New Year's.
Yeah,
because once you're through security and you're in for New Year's Eve in Times Square, you cannot leave. And it's not like they have porta potties everywhere.
No.
So people wear the Depends.
I had a guy I worked with that wore Depends. He was a big St. Patrick's Day guy, and in Chicago, and he wore Depends to the bar.
Yeah.
I said no. He goes, I'm peeing right now. I said, well, I'm gonna go home. I watched on the I believe it was on the TikTok. I was scrolling through, and a woman gets pulled over by the police, and this reminds me of this story. And I'm watching. They're like, and then the title was, you need to watch to the end or whatever. So the policeman pulls her over, says she was speeding, she was in a hurry. She goes, I need to go to the bathroom. So he goes, well, you need to. And she goes, I need to go to the bathroom. So he doesn't. She gets out, and the police cameras on the cruiser, and she pulls her pants down and poops right there in the back of her car. The police officer doesn't know what to do, and then they start fighting. Her pants are down around her ankles. She says, I told you I had to go. So there you go. You have to go.
Classic. Right? Yeah.
Well, I almost don't want to do mine at this point. I mean, I can't. I
I'm
can't,
sorry if I took any thunder away, but
I can't beat it. Mine's just a boring old business story. And the headline is Sephora has locked up all its perfume. It's
just like CVS and everything gets locked up, right?
Too many people are stealing. So Sephora, which had prided themselves, they were the whole model of Sephora store. I don't know if you've ever been in one, but was that you could try makeup or try. It's mostly women's fragrances and makeup, but there is some men's stuff and grooming products there. But you could actually try it, test it, and then pick it up right there and go up and buy it. So that was the big thing, because in most department stores, if you look at something, somebody at the counter would help you, and then you would have to bring it back. But so Sephora had a different model there, but they've now had to change it because of thefts. They said they've removed all fragrances, which was one of the most targeted items for theft. So they've taken them off the shelves and replaced them with kind of nondescript fragrance tester bottles, which I would think if you want the fragrance, you'd still steal the bottle. But they said previously people could go into the section, try the tester, and then take an unopened box and then go pay for it. They said those days are gone, and they've been built on pioneering this concept of try before you buy. But everybody now is bemoaning the fact that this seems to be the way of life right now. And last time I was in the city, and when you couldn't even buy deodorant, it was locked up behind
everything, even Ivory soap, like plain old bar soap. Yeah.
My issue with that, and this has happened in Target and, as you said, CVS, Dwayne Reed, these drugstores and stuff. Sometimes I would, if I'm buying deodorant or something or toothpaste, don't you sometimes look at the package, see what's in it? And so now you actually have to get somebody, right, to come.
You have to bother
and are they going to stand? Are they going to stand with you as you start looking and comparing and reading and all this stuff? Or I've not had that.
That's part of their job description. I was down at a CVS a couple weeks ago, and a gentleman was standing next to me, a younger guy. We were both standing in front of like body wash and bar soap. I wanted to get a package of Ivory soap. He wanted to get like Axe body wash. Guy comes over, unlocks it. The guy next to me was first, so he starts doing exactly what you're talking about. He wanted to look at a couple things. He had to hold the package up. Right. So and then the guy goes, "What do you get?" And I said, "I'm just getting Ivory soap." We finish up. The guy locks the cabinet, walks away, and this other guy looks at me. He goes, "We've hit a new level of ridiculous." I'm like, "Yeah."
You knew you wanted Ivory, and if you knew you wanted a particular toothpaste or something, you could do that.
But if you're looking at 3 different cold medicines or something, you're going to want to look at
ingredients, and sometimes a generic. You want to make sure they have the same amount of milligrams or whatever liters. And so they said that what's happening now also is that, particularly with retailers, they said that people are targeting stores that carry higher value merchandise like electronics, sporting goods, cosmetics, fragrance, clothing, handbags, and shoes. And so what's happening is a lot of stores are moving those items either to the back of the store or make it difficult so that if you did take something, you would have to kind of go through a maze to get out. So they could, hopefully catch you. Although I've seen a lot of these videos where people don't get caught. They just go in and you watch the security guards just watch them go. They said the most common items that are locked up currently are toothpaste, deodorant, shampoo, vitamins, cosmetics, and underwear.
That last one? Underwear?
So I saw this in Philadelphia. There's a TJ Maxx, and remember you used to look at underwear, look at sidewalk, all locked up.
Wow.
So you would have to have somebody come and say, "Can I look at those?" Which to me, all this is done because this happened to me is drive people to online shopping, right? Or you go to Amazon or to the actual retailer to buy. I did that last time with deodorant because I was so aggravated about having to go and get somebody to open, because that's the other thing, trying to find somebody to come open it up for you.
Bing, service needed in aisle. Yeah, and you stand there. Bing, service needed. Yeah.
So it's I don't know if this is going to change. They blamed it all on the pandemic, right?
Pandemic,
when people said things cost money, but I don't know how you lasso this in. Is that the right word?
Lasso.
I don't know how you lasso this in. What do you think? I mean, this has been part of the discussion with some of the elections coming up about the high rate
Security,
of
crime. Yeah.
Which, on a side note, did you see they cleaned up San Francisco for the big Asian summit?
When Xi Jinping was in town, and I think
why didn't they just do that earlier?
Let's just say they probably put a rosy blanket over the problem, and once everybody was out of town, the problem resurfaced. I'm guessing it was like kind of a table dressing.
During the Republican convention back in 2000 in Philly, the gateway into Philadelphia through New Jersey was loaded with porn shops, liquor stores, dirty bookstores, neon with women's breasts bouncing. The Japanese loved it, by the way. But so Christy Todd Whitman, who had wanted a position within the Bush administration then, she was governor of New Jersey, and I, in my life, have never seen anything clean up so quick in my life. When they had announced Philadelphia was going to be the place for the Republican convention that summer, the bulldozers and construction came and wiped out that whole, it was Admiral Wilson Boulevard, wiped it out and put in fencing and beautiful parks and little hills and walkways and, and trees and plantings.
Wow.
So that would be the impression going into Philadelphia instead of the New Jersey impression, either coming or going from Pennsylvania into Jersey, which was kind of a seedy little gateway. You know where that is on your way.
I do. And I'm shocked at that because I only know it the way you described it after the cleanup, right?
Oh, you were petrified. You'd have to, when I would leave there at work at night, you would pray to get through there and not have to break down. But but they cleaned it up so quick and did it, and I thought, so if you can do that, if you could clean up San Francisco, they said they took away the homeless encampments and the place where people are shooting up and all the people in the streets. I thought if you could do that, why don't you do it sooner?
Totally. Yeah.
But anyway,
completely.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm talking to the choir. So, many of you know that Deep Discount is a friend of ours here on the focus group, and they've been with us for, quite some time. And we appreciate all of their support of us. Right now, they've got a Black Friday sale.
Well, Black Friday, and depending on when you're listening to the show, you might want to then go to Cyber Week, right? So it's Black Friday, Cyber Week.
Black Friday Cyber Week sale, because I am trying to find my document, Mr. Nash. So I will let you.
Well, I'm the first up.
Right, share with us while I look for my document.
Tim turned me on to this months ago, but I kind of did it once or twice. But now I'm kind of caught in this, the deep 100, the top, like we were talking about this on Unbuttoned earlier, like the top ordered things. And I'm amazed what pops up. So I'm looking at the Deep 100, and up comes a movie called Without a Clue. It was released in 1988, and it stars Michael Caine and Ben Kingsley. I think they're both knighted, so it would be Sir Michael Caine and Sir Ben Kingsley. We all know Ben Kingsley for a variety of roles, most notably his Oscar for Gandhi, and Sir Michael Caine is one of my favorite character actors of all time. He has been in so many movies I adore. One comes to mind right off the bat that I love. I can't stop watching it when I start watching it is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Oh, yes.
So this movie, though, is about Sherlock Holmes, and the premise is that it's actually Dr. Watson, played by Ben Kingsley, who is in fact the world-famous detective, and he made up Sherlock Holmes as a fictional character. So that's the premise of the movie, and eventually there's going to be some kind of thing going on, and people want to meet the real Sherlock Holmes. So Ben Kingsley hires an actor named Reginald Kincaid, who's played by Michael Caine, to assume the role of Sherlock Holmes, with very mixed and very funny results. The game's afoot with Watson and the unlikely Holmes hot on the trail of Professor Moriarty, played by Paul Freeman of Raiders of the Lost Ark fame, the nefarious mastermind behind a plot to topple the British Empire. So I've been going through a Sherlock Holmes phase. Jeremy Brett, I think was his name, was one of my favorite Sherlock Holmes on a PBS series years ago. You can't even they don't even sell the DVDs anymore.
Wow.
So I saw this. I'm like, I don't remember hearing about it at all. It's 1839. It's a perfect movie for me because I don't know it. It's not streaming, and this is exactly what you have deep discount for, right?
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Mine.
You got your notes?
Yeah, I found my notes. It's as John mentioned, Black Friday Cyber Week sale at deep discount. The movie I picked, we've talked about before. There's something raw I like about it.
Oh, you love this.
Yeah, it's called Home for the Holidays, and it originally came out in 1995 and has Robert Downey Jr., Holly Hunter, Anne Bancroft, Charles Durning, and it was also
Geraldine Chaplin, who is the daughter of Charlie. Yeah,
right. And I believe Steve Guttenberg might have been involved. And it was directed by Jodie Foster.
Which is brilliant, right?
Right. So what happens is it's a wacky kind of poignant comedy, somewhat of a black comedy, I think, or as I would call it. But the main character, Holly Hunter, travels home back to Baltimore for Thanksgiving, and essentially reacquaints herself with her gay brother, her parents, her crazy aunt, and the rest of the family. And watching it, you really do. It's also, Dylan McDermott's there. Claire Danes is also in it. But it is quite a cast, and it really was very raw and reminded me of some of my earlier years of going back home after college and living in Philadelphia for Thanksgiving, because as you get older, you start to see the characteristics and the characters in each family, right? Everybody's got their place and their position. And that's a lot of what this is. And there's some very touching moments of Holly Hunter with her dad at different points, and mom's frustrations and the crazy aunt and all that. So anyway, I think Home for the Holidays is a good movie to watch, and
it's a fantastic pick, Tim. I know a lot of people who rank this as one of their favorite holiday films because of the dysfunction it shows.
Yeah, there's lots of dysfunction. Yeah, and it's a Thanksgiving movie, which is different. So it's not Christmas.
Holiday. It's the start of the holidays, Thanksgiving.
The start of the holidays. So, pick that up. And I never see it on any of the pay-per-view or streaming things.
So for $8.93, it's a bargain, right?
Yeah. So what was our release this week?
Release is a movie that I am ordering probably over the weekend because I did not get to see it in theaters. I wanted to see it in IMAX or the big screen.
Right.
Oppenheimer. It was a big movie this past summer. This is a Christopher Nolan, a director I adore. I like a lot of his films. Most of his films I like. He did this profile of Oppenheimer. The movie did great. Has an amazing cast. Robert Downey Jr. shows up in this. Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, Josh Hartnett, and then Casey Affleck, Rami Malek, and Kenneth Branagh. And then Oppenheimer himself is played by, I want to say Cillian, or it says Cillian, Cillian, Cillian Murphy, who plays the titular head of the Manhattan Project that eventually yielded us the atomic bomb. So this is out in 4K and Blu-ray and Ultra HD. Deep Discount has it on the 4K Ultra HD side for $29.99. So it's Oppenheimer, and I'm dying to see it because it's supposed to be, well, we all know it did very well. It's a good movie.
Everybody was seeing that in Barbie, right? They were doing the double feature.
And they called them Barbenheimer. Remember the two movies together, the big blockbusters?
And I didn't see Barbie. Did you see Barbie?
Not yet, no. That's one I got to order too. So maybe I'll order Barbie and Oppenheimer at the same time and recreate the summer blockbuster moments.
Exactly.
So reviewing for folks, it is a Black Friday sale, or if you missed Black Friday, it's Cyber Monday and Cyber Week. Actually, now it's Cyber Week, sorry, because the cyber thing goes on the whole time. And Tim picked a movie called Home for the Holidays, which we were just discussing before Oppenheimer. I picked Without a Clue, which came off the Deep 100, which means a lot of people are ordering this, which makes me dead curious to know why, which I'm going to buy that. And then the release this week has been Oppenheimer. So that's deep discount. And we want to remind you that you get the deep discount by going to focusgroupradio.com, our site, and click on the deep discount logo and start your shopping extravaganza. Big thank you to them for being a part of the focus group. We're going to take a very, very minor break. And when we return, we have a business birthday for you and a shop talk about Gen Z and their possibility of abandonment of the resume. So stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. We hope everybody's having a nice Thanksgiving week if you traveled and you're safe and sound and enjoying times with friends and family. We are the Focus Group. Be sure to learn all about us at focusgroupradio.com. So, Mr. Nash, without further ado, we've got our business birthday this week.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Now, it's also Billie Jean King's birthday today.
Really?
Yeah, I struggle sometimes. I know you tell me not to overthink it, but I didn't know whether that. I don't know if that's
Did
a
we
business.
do her once before? Did we?
I think we might have over the years. Yeah, but
She's a big celebrity. I like profiling people that may not be so. And you do a great job with that. That might not be like the big name.
Yeah, but I just thought we should at least acknowledge.
Happy birthday, Billie
King's.
Jean.
Right. The who we picked this week is Harley Earl, Harley Jarvis Earl, born November 22nd, 1893, died April 10th, 1969, an American automotive designer and business executive. He was he was designated head of design at General Motors, the very first person to be a design chief at a major corporation, and first top executive ever appointed in design of any major corporation in America. He was an industrial designer, a pioneer of modern transportation, a coach builder by trade. He pioneered the use of free-form sketching and hand-sculpted clay models for automotive design. He also introduced the idea of a concept car as both the tool for design processes and as a clever marketing device, or something. Here's something new. So anyone who's gone to auto shows or follows the auto industry knows that the concept car is a big deal to have something to show of, the possibility of what could be. He was also, his very first concept car was called the Buick Y Job, which eventually became the Chevrolet Corvette.
Seriously? The Y Job is a weird name.
Yeah, the Y Job, Buick Y Job, and which became the Corvette. And he also authorized the introduction of the tailfin into automotive styling, which we were going into the jet age. They said before that, cars were often designed to look like bathtubs almost. If you look at some of the old cars, they call them tub design. And he made them lower, sleeker, and more modern. During World War II, he was also an active contributor to the military for, of all things, to develop the effective use of camouflage paint. So the pattern of camouflage with the brown, the green, the tan colors. Yep. He was very much involved in the effective use of developing camouflage for the military, which I thought was interesting. He was born in Hollywood, California. His father was actually a coach builder, and had started with horse-drawn vehicles, then into automotive. And I put this in there only because he made some of the first cars for Fatty Arbuckle. Remember Fatty Arbuckle?
Tim, I had to process that for a second. I know who Fatty Arbuckle is, and my mind is racing back to a pool in Palm Springs where you and I were having fun with a gossip columnist. And I was like, okay.
So Earl had left and gone to work for a Cadillac dealer, and which was not part of General Motors at the time, but it was a Cadillac dealer who also would work on Fisher Body. And these are all names, if, again, you're in automotive, you would know. And the president at the time of General Motors, Alfred Sloan, had visited the Cadillac dealer and saw the work that Earl Jarvis was doing. Harley, I'm going to back his
It's
name.
a hard name, Harley
My
Jarvis Earl.
dyslexis.
No, it's hard. Harley Jarvis Earl.
The work he was doing, and decided to hire him to come work at General Motors, and developed what they called the art and color section. So prior to that, automobile manufacturers didn't assign any importance to the appearance of automobiles. They would just take the chassis, and based upon economies and money, they would just build cars. There was never really any design involved. So he was the first to do that. He did have a lot of pushback, though. With some of his cars, he was nicknamed the Pretty Picture Boy, and also his design studio was called the Beauty Parlor.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
By other executives at the time, and I was wondering about that because then I tried to find out, was he married? So I'm wondering if there was some coded language there of the Pretty Picture Boy and the Beauty Parlor of his cars, because he was the very first styling person to be a VP. He also Harley Earl implemented dynamic obsolescence, or we know as planned obsolescence, meaning with a model change, I got to get the newest, I got to get the latest and greatest. So they actually used this branding or planned obsolescence of the change of cars each year or model year as also a weapon to increase sales and get people to want to have the latest and greatest. So he had quite a history. He at the very end, it talks about what he was most known for. Obviously, the Corvette and the tailfins, but he was also remembered for his use of clay modeling, the wraparound windshield, the hardtop sedan, and two-tone paint. So remember, a lot of those cars from the 50s would have the two-tones paint on them, and of course tailfins. When he was asked in an interview what his work was at General Motors, he said, "My primary purpose for 28 years has been to lengthen and lower the American automobile." And so that was his job. And then, of course, he won numerous awards over the lifetime. Currently, you can get the Harley Earl Trophy if you win the Daytona 500. Buick used him briefly in the early 2000s, 2001, 2002, in their commercials to try to talk about the spirit of American style. And in Detroit, they ranked him as the third most significant Michigan artist of the 20th century. Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, and Harley Jarvis Earl were the top three. So happy birthday to Mr.
That
Mr.
is
Earl.
super cool.
So yeah, you would have been a good automotive designer, I think. No?
I don't know. I look at some of the work those guys did, and first of all, the tail fins and those rocket kind of lights and everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's so whimsical, and it's also so future thinking. Like, we're going to go to space, the whole thing. So it would have been a fun career. I don't know how I would have ever fallen into it, though.
Yeah, I think there's one of those where you'd have to say you wanted to do it from a young age.
Or you had a
and
lifelong
focused on it.
passion with the automobile or something. Yeah.
I love the tail fins. I don't know why we got rid of them. I don't.
Trunks that was the trunk of the car, and then they eliminated trunks or made them really small, and the tail fin had to go away. Yeah.
I remember when in my days at Subaru, we would go, and in many of the auto shows, particularly in Detroit, they would have the old cars with the tail fins, and my Japanese and the German counterparts would just laugh and giggle at the huge tail fins. There was actually one car, my mom had said this because her mom had one, that my mother would get this Buick going fast enough that it would actually feel like it was going to lift off the ground with the tail fin.
It's a wing.
Like a wing in the back. Pick up speed and get going. So God bless those big American cars. Mm-hmm. That's when design was design. So our shop talk this week was quite a surprise. John had found this at a Fortune magazine, and I like the article a lot. I'm wondering what you thought about it, but the headline is Gen Z could wave goodbye to resumes because most companies have turned to skills-based recruitment and find it more effective, research shows. And I laughed about the next paragraph. It says, trying to summarize every job you've had and then distill it onto a two-page resume has been the bane of every job hunter's existence since the 50s.
Yeah.
So fortunately for Gen Z, it's something they might not ever have to bore themselves with. New research shows that many companies are moving away from relying on the traditional job application requirement of the resume. And they said, in fact, almost 3/4 of companies now are using skills-based assessments throughout the hiring process, according to Test Gorilla, which is a skill-based hiring report. And they said it's up from 56% last year, so up to 3/4. And they find that the skill-based hiring is more effective. And I was wondering what you thought about
Well,
that.
the stats, I think that's probably why you gravitated towards liking the article. The stats are kind of amazing. It said overall, 92% of the employers surveyed reported that skills-based hiring is more effective at identifying talented candidates than a traditional CV. Meanwhile, over 80% said it's more predictive of on-job success and leads to new hires staying longer in their roles. My question in all of this, and I wasn't sure, I'm scanning the article to make sure I didn't miss this, but how do they, so, with CVs, with traditional resume cover letter, it's screened, it's probably read by a machine, they're looking for keywords, et cetera, and then you maybe make it to an interview. I'm puzzled about skills, this type of hiring, this skills-based hiring. Does that mean you sign on to a portal or something and you're asked a series of questions?
I was wondering about that because that seemed to have been misplaced, other than it says that they test the candidates on how they would handle, so this skill-based hiring, it says they test candidates on how they would handle the actual day-to-day responsibilities of a role. Employees are more likely to hire the best person for the job instead of being drawn by a big name or a snazzy title. So they said, for instance, if you worked for search engine optimization, you said you're on the team and you worked at Google, you can say that on your resume and that might, in the word search, pull you up and call you in for an interview. But then when you actually discuss with somebody, well, what did you actually do, within that team or something? The skill-based questions get into how would you handle day to day? How did you actually go about solving problems? How did you do it? So it's the next step beyond the behavioral interview. A lot of what was vogue in the last 10 or 15 years is this behavioral, interviewing. How did you handle a time?
Tell me
where
about a time
you
that
had
you
a
did
challenge.
it.
Yabba dabba do, right? Which used to aggravate me because I would think if you were, in many regards, at a certain level in your career, you've seen it all and you've done it all, and if you've had any stability, asking those sort of questions to me was also, I don't know. It used to frustrate me because I thought I know how to do this, and I think that's where this resume thing overall is. You can list you were a manager of this or a director of that or a VP of this, but at the end of the day, they want to know, did you actually do anything to affect change or create change? We all know people who have had jobs for 1 or 2 years, or 8 months or 9 months. You can't do anything wrong in 8 months or 9 months, right? You're still getting your feet wet. And I used to laugh at people that would be promoted quickly, and I thought they never were at a job where they actually had any sort of effect or could make any sort of difference, right? Because if you're in a job for such a quick time or short time, how do you have any sort of either success or failure? And failure is not always bad.
No, and so the other thing that was surprising in this article, so there's that whole layer of that and preparing for an interview, like this behavioral interview we were just earlier talking about, and then this skills-based thing, means you do have to have a sense of, here's a favorite project of mine, here's a great outcome. You have to have negatives too. Here's when I didn't do something well or I didn't solve a problem. The other thing that surprised me in this was that Google, Microsoft, IBM, and Apple have all eliminated their long-held degree requirements,
right,
to remove barriers to entry and recruit more diverse talent. So now you're even, you and I were told at one point that the master's degree was the new BA.
Right.
Here you have some of these biggest tech companies not even looking at your a degree of any sort, and they're going with, I like skills-based ideas, but how do you even prep for that, right?
Well, and I was trying to, if you compared you and I, for instance, your skill set is, you can do a lot of technical things that I can't do, and you have a lot of graphic and other sort of knowledge operationally that I couldn't do. And I tried to figure out how would you assess the skill, and what skill, there's actually hard skills or tangible skills, and then there's just being able to manage your way through either negotiating. Maybe negotiating would be a skill. So, but I was shocked by that. I'm glad you pulled that out about the Google, Microsoft, IBM, Apple eliminating the long-held degree requirements. Now, the other thing, though, at the very end of the article, it contradicts itself, right?
Yes.
It says that, but research shows that the skeptical Gen Z generation remains unconvinced. They're shunning the apprenticeship schemes in favor of going down the traditional route of college. So perhaps they're still going to have to go through writing a resume. So I thought that was interesting that they said they're still going down the route of college. But I think they were just talking in general that new people going into the workforce might not have to have the traditional resume. You and I have always struggled with the resume issue, and particularly with our business. Sometimes if someone says we need a resume, you and I are involved in so many different things. Our business, Triberry Productions, as well as the podcast and the show here we do.
They're very
the
different.
Focus group, and they're very different. How do you put all that on a resume?
And how do you do it on one sheet of paper with one sentence per thing? I think one of our shop talks a couple months ago was about how entrepreneurs and people who do what we do are usually kicked right out of the system if a resume comes in, because we are so, I guess our problem-solving set and skills are too diverse for when they're looking for a specific individual who's going to be happy doing a specific thing. Once I read it, it made a lot of sense to me, but it was also kind of alarming in the sense that people like you and me and other people who are sole proprietors or consultants, they bring a lot to the table. A lot of experience comes with us. Like we have seen it all. Maybe that's the problem.
And we have a couple of friends and experience ourselves where you would read a job description and say, "Oh, that's exactly my skill set," or "This is the perfect fit for me." It has as it's written, and then they never get a call.
No.
And there was a person that I knew that worked and had a very good career within the retail space for two very, very well-known, respected
Huge,
brands.
Amazing brands.
Never got a call for a lesser brand that was looking for a similar person. She just wanted to relocate to a different city. Never got a call and couldn't figure it out, and then had to talk to the computer, however they doing these computer things now. And she's so frustrated. So I don't know what happens. Everybody's talking about, there's plenty of jobs out there and unemployment's so low, but maybe it's our age, John. Nobody wants to talk about it. People don't want to hire older people.
Could be, probably is. I mean, I stripped, last time I did resume cover letter
Did you take off dates and stuff? Did you take off like when
dates.
you graduated college?
Yeah, exactly. Which is a tell-all, by the way. But having them is bad. Not having them is also bad.
Oh, hiding something.
After that experience, I felt like someone put me in one of those stockades at Sturbridge Village and kicked my head repeatedly for an hour, because no matter what you did, I mean, it was 48 custom resumes, 48 custom, something in that neighborhood. I think I was offered a teaching position at a school in Harlem for podcasting, and it was
$13 an hour.
It was. I did the
Whatever it
spreadsheet. I would lose money. It was like 3 in the afternoon to 9 at night. I mean,
oh my God! I almost wish you had taken that just for the stories.
I would have loved it.
Of course, you would have lasted about a week.
Probably, yeah. And then I remember working with a career coach. He's like, "Well, you and Tim have been doing what you've been doing for X number of years. Why don't you keep doing it?" So yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah.
Are you giving that all up?
Did I what?
Are you giving that all up?
Yeah, I was like, yeah. We were laughing because I saw my mom recently, and she said, "Are you still working, or have you given that all up?" So I didn't know what she meant. I was like, "Oh yeah, I got to make money." Anyway, folks, that was our shop talk today. Maybe we will live in the future of a non-resume world, but I'm not even sure that I want that, because skills-based, behavioral, I'm not going to do well on any of that. And we're down the road.
You don't think so?
I just
if somebody on the spot said to you, "What are your top 3 skills?" Could you name them? Boom, boom, boom. I'd have to think about it, because you want to say the right ones, right? I mean, you have a lot of abilities, but you want to make sure I guess depending on the job.
When that was asked of me once, I said, my favorite skill. I'm a creative problem solver. I love being given the facts and giving something out that you might not know as an answer. Good storyteller, and clever. I'm clever when it comes to putting imagery and typography together and headlines and stuff like that. But I don't know that that's an answer somebody wants, right? It's almost too generalized and diffuse. Sorry. Anyway, All right, so hey, folks, we hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. If you are watching the show on Wednesday, drive safe, be careful, enjoy Thanksgiving. If you're listening to us on Saturday as part of your podcast stream of choice, we hope you had a great holiday and that you drove safe and stayed safe. And we always like to say here on the Focus Group, don't text and drive, arrive alive. And also be sure to visit deepdiscount.com. Go to our site, focusgroupradio.com, click on their logo, and check out Black Friday and Cyber Week and Cyber Monday and Cyber Week sales. Plenty of things to choose. I chose a movie. What did I choose, Tim? It was called...
I got it right here, Without a Clue.
Without a Clue. Michael Caine, Ben Kingsley, and a Sherlock Holmes movie I never heard of. And that was off the Deep 100. Tim picked Home for the Holidays. Is that it?
Home for the Holidays? Yep.
Classic. And the new release this week is Oppenheimer, which I'm dying to see. And I'm definitely ordering it, so you should too. Everybody have a good one. We'll see you in the new week.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.